Borneo's forests have been logged for decades, for timber mostly, but the advent of palm oil has changed everything. Orangutans, gibbons, macaques and bears could survive in the secondary forests left after the best trees were removed. But the practice of clearing everything has left animals without any of their customary habitat. Environmental groups claim some 5 million hectares of orangutan habitat have been destroyed for palm plantations. When the forest disappears, instinct leads the apes back to what used to be their homes. They cling to any stump in the cleared plantations, unable to understand where their food has gone. It's left to privately funded NGOs to rescue them before plantation workers kill them or sell the babies as pets. Lona Drescher-Nielsen's group is BOS, the Borneo Orangutan Survival Foundation. Relying precariously on donations, it sends teams to drug and capture lost orangutans to release them eventually back into the wild.
Mama Mosi!
We now work with almost all plantations in central Kalimantan. Some are more willing to call us because it doesn't cost them anything.
We estimate about 5,000 orangutans are killed at least every year. Another 5 or 6 years, if we don't watch out, if we don't do something now, the orangutan will be gone in the wild.
The man who signs the palm oil concessions is the provincial governor. He denies licenses are granted for virgin forest, insisting that it's only already cleared land that's available for plantations.
The problem is not logging that's carried out by those with permits, but by those who don't have permits, what is called illegal logging. In my opinion, the problem is, if the international community didn't accept this, then the illegal loggers would have no support.
But BOS insists most concessions are given for primary forest.
The district chiefs can give out concessions up to about 5,000 hectares on their own. And if the palm oil plantations give enough money out of the table, the district chiefs doesn't really matter very much whether that land has got forest on it or not.
Lona's most ambitious and controversial project is to rehabilitate the orphans back into the wild.
We're going out to one of our release islands where the orangutans are living more or less freely, but still with help with food and stuff, because the islands are not big enough to support as many orangutans that are here.
Many scientists are skeptical that orphans raised in captivity can be successfully released. She's determined to prove them wrong. The technicians call out to the orangutans to let them know there's food. Within minutes, a trickle of nearly wild apes appears.
This is Gaddy's coming in here. She's still a young female, she's only about 8 years old.
The island colony now has 43 apes adapting to independent living, 6 of whom were born here.
In captivity, you find lots of babies are not taken care of very well by the mothers.
Yeah.
They throw them out, or they just don't really seem to know what to do with them.
I will bite you.
Centres like this give hope that Asia's last orangutans will endure in the wild.
They love to be tickled.
But that's far from certain, as long as the world is more concerned with palm oil production than habitat destruction.
This week we're coming to you from the Borneo Orangutan Rehabilitation Center, where we're talking about the endangerment of these great apes. Eric, how much do you think is this problem facing the orangutans an issue that's related to a lack of education or awareness by the people who are involved in illegal logging or even the wildlife trade?
There isn't much thinking into long-term management of natural resources. It's very much get it as soon as you can, and it doesn't matter where people are from, local communities or they're from big businesses, it's all business. And get it as quickly as you can, as much as you can, without much thinking about the long-term future. Maybe this is all related to Indonesia's past, how things have developed. There wasn't much land security, wasn't much tenure security, so people are used to taking short-term opportunities, and that makes it really hard to put a long-term conservation program management in place. Whether that's related to education, whether that's related to human greed that happens and exists everywhere in the world, I can't judge.
Sure, but we are talking about most people, most poachers, I'd say, would be living below the poverty line or within the poverty circle itself. Hardy, are they aware that they are contributing to the dwindling numbers of the orangutans and the degradation of these forests? Or do they care?
The problem is, I think, just the people who has money and power, they just do not care. They only care with their own profit. They notice orangutan is protected animals, but why they still converting the forest and also kill the orangutans? So I think the problem is not in the local people, but in the people who has the money and power.
Tony, you've been quoted as saying that all development requires some sacrifice.
Yes.
Is the Borneo biodiversity in Borneo's forests, is that worth sacrificing for economic developments of the nation?
Well, the way we trying to find is that to find a compromise between the two issues. What happened in the field is each province, each region has its own what they call special plan, which indicate the area for conservation, development, agriculture, urban area. That's the agreed consensus that every sector should follow. If we had a problem with one sector, then we should enforce that.
Eric, how difficult is it to marry commercial interests with environmental conservation? Can you, or is it difficult to engage timber industries, oil palm industries to start looking at the biodiversity in the Borneo forests and for them to start acting?
I think it depends where you look. Like the timber industry, we've done a lot of studies on how orangutans survive in timber concession. If you have a really well-managed timber concession, well-managed in terms of how they run their operation, how they extract their timber, how they let forest regenerate after that, orangutans could perfectly well live there. And as Tony pointed out, 75% of orangutans live outside national parks. That basically means they live in forest that is going to have some productive function, most of the cases.
And there are successes.
There are successes because we know they survive. I mean, it really is about...
What are the successes?
The successes are where timber concessions have been improving their management to the point that they become like internationally certified, and that's an open, internationally audited process where basically they have to abide by a whole set of rules about how they manage their forests. That's the forest technical side of things. I know from an ecological side that orangutans can survive there. So if a timber concession manages their concession with purely an economical, from an economical perspective, they want to minimize their economic losses, they want to maximize their efficiency, and they do it in that way, and they save the orangutan at the same time, I'm fine. Oil palm industry is an entirely different story. Orangutans do not survive in oil palm.
Plantation also.
In plantation.
Why is that? How different would it be from the timber industries to the oil palm plantation?
I mean,
the food.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no availability of the food.
And
there's no fruit.
The food that's there is like young palm shoots. So they cause damage to they become a pest animal, and they're being treated as such. I mean, Hardy has plenty of evidence of orangutans being killed during the establishment of oil palm. I mean, that's happening because they are killing oil palm, and they're a protected species.
Oil palm, though, is a huge industry here in Indonesia. It creates a lot of revenue. Is there a balance? Can you have environmental conservation and at the same time an economic progress in the oil palm industry?
The palm oil plantations, they take everything from nature. If people say that it's for economic development, but I will ask back that economic development for who? It's for the company, not for the local people. I know it's a big profit from palm oil plantation, maybe to pay the tax, but we will a great loss from the big profit.
And that loss, sorry to go back to your question, but I think that this perception that oil palm has to happen because it is a massive driver of the economy, the Indonesian economy, it's not necessarily the case. I mean, there are other uses of forest that can generate as much revenue as oil palm. It's just that people don't count these things. I mean, we're looking at like carbon sequestration at the moment that has the potential to generate. We've looked at this in detail, like the revenues created by 30 years of oil palm, as opposed to what would the revenues be if a carbon market really kick in and start generating income for Indonesian people and the government. That at a carbon price of like $5 to $6 per ton, which is well within the international markets, you'll start being economically competitive with oil palm. So this whole argument that oil palm has to happen to drive the economy, that is not true. It's the easy way, because you can plant oil palm tomorrow and harvest it in 5 years, and everyone knows how to do it. Making a carbon project, it's quick cash, yeah.
Well, that's all the time that we have. Thank you very much for joining me in this discussion. Thank you again for watching from the team of 101 East here at the Borneo Rehabilitation Centre. We'll see you again next week.